How many times have you found yourself in situations where you've unknowingly said something that left people questioning your character? Or maybe you've acted in ways that seemed harmless at the time, but ended up damaging the trust others had in you. Ever felt like you've just ruined your reputation without realizing it? It's like wearing a perfectly good shirt to a party, only to spill coffee all over it. Now you're trying to hide it, but everyone's already noticed. The damage is done, and you didn't even see it coming. Small actions, big consequences. Your reputation can be shattered in an instant without you even knowing why. Our reputation is fragile, and we often don't realize how small behaviors are slowly damaging it. Whether it's how we communicate, keep promises, or handle emotions, these actions can have a lasting impact on our self-respect and relationships without us even noticing. Are your actions unintentionally damaging your reputation? The good news is that once we recognize these habits, we can change them and rebuild our trust and respect. In today's video, we'll explore 8 habits that can ruin your reputation without you realizing it. These small actions have big consequences. And don't miss the last point. It could change how you view yourself and your relationships. But before we dive in, pay attention to this story, which will help you better understand the wisdom in this material. The Tale of Cian, the hidden shadows of reputation. In an old town, there lived a young man named Cian. He was well known for his honesty and kindness. People trusted him so much that they often came to him for advice. But there was one thing Cian was very proud of: his reputation. He never imagined that one day the weight of that reputation would become a burden. One day, Cian joined a gathering of friends. There he made a few new connections, but because of his kind and easygoing nature, he didn't think much about his small actions. What seemed harmless to him started to change how people saw him. At the gathering, he casually started a silly rumor as a joke. Cian thought it was just for fun, but the rumor quickly became a big issue. It ended up hurting someone's reputation, and people started looking at Cian with suspicion. Another time, Cian made a promise to a friend, but forgot about it because he was too busy. His friend felt like Cian didn't care anymore, and even expressed their feelings on social media. This made people think differently about Cian, creating another crack in his reputation. At first, Cian thought these small things didn't matter and would fix themselves over time. But then, an old wise man entered his life, a librarian who spent his days surrounded by books and wisdom. "Cian," the old man said, "your reputation is like a mirror. Once it gets stained, it's hard to make it clean again. You don't realize that your small choices are changing how others see you." The old man handed Cian a book filled with lessons. One line stood out to him: "The small things you ignore today are what change your image in the eyes of others." This made Cian reflect on his actions. He realized his joke had hurt someone's dignity, his broken promise had weakened a friendship, and these small actions had left stains on his reputation's mirror. Cian decided to rebuild his reputation, but this time he was more careful with his choices. He started by apologizing to the people his actions had hurt. He cleared up the rumor by spreading the truth and worked on repairing his friendship by keeping his promises. Moral of the story: your reputation is like a delicate thread. If it breaks, it takes time to fix. Small actions like gossip, breaking promises, or careless words can damage your image without you even realizing it. Cian's story reminds us that every little decision shapes how others see us, so we must always think carefully before we act. Before we begin with the first lesson, if you find these videos helpful, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated on the latest content. Let's begin. Number 1. They blame others for everything. Have you ever met someone who turns every problem into someone else's fault? Their boss is unfair, their parents didn't raise them right, and even the weather seems to be plotting against them. These people treat life as if it's a courtroom, constantly pointing fingers and building a case against everyone but themselves. But here's the thing, blaming others doesn't just reveal weakness. It's a neon sign flashing, "I refuse to take responsibility for my life." Let's put it this way. Imagine life is a car. A person who blames others is the driver who closes their eyes, crashes into a wall, and then yells at the road for being in the way. What happens to the passengers, friends, family, co-workers? They lose trust. No one wants to sit in a car with a reckless driver. This blame game is nothing more than an escape hatch, a way to avoid owning up to mistakes. But it leaves behind a trail of wreckage, broken relationships, ruined opportunities, and a reputation that sinks faster than a ship full of holes. Why do people act this way? Because accountability is uncomfortable. It forces you to face the harsh reality of your own flaws. And let's be honest, that's not easy. Blaming others, on the other hand, is a shortcut. It's a way to protect the ego while masking insecurity. But here's the ugly truth. Every time you point a finger, you lose respect. People see through it. They know that someone who blames others can never truly be trusted to lead, grow, or even be a reliable friend. Now, how do you spot this behavior? It's all in the patterns. Someone who constantly blames others will never run out of targets. One day it's their partner who doesn't understand them. The next it's their co-workers who hold them back. And soon enough, it's you. They rewrite every story to make themselves the victim. But remember, a person who always plays the victim is just an actor in their own drama, unwilling to write a better script. What does Stoicism teach us about this? Marcus Aurelius said it best. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Blame is nothing more than a distraction. It gives away your power and stops you from focusing on what you can control, yourself. So how do you handle people like this? First, don't let their negativity infect you. Stay focused on your own growth. Second, lead by example. Show them what accountability looks like. And if they refuse to change, walk away. Protect your energy, because being around someone who blames others is like sitting under a leaky roof. It's only a matter of time before the drip turns into a flood. Life isn't about finding scapegoats. It's about owning your journey, learning from your mistakes, and becoming better every single day. Remember, strong people don't waste time pointing fingers. They use that time to build, to grow, and to thrive. The question is, will you rise above the blame game and take control of your life? Number 2. Constant complaining. Do you know someone who treats every conversation like a stage for their endless list of complaints? Their coffee is too bitter, the weather is too hot, their boss is too demanding, and life just never seems to go their way. At first, you might feel sorry for them, but eventually it becomes draining, like carrying a heavy backpack that isn't even yours. Constant complainers don't just push others away, they sabotage their own reputation without even realizing it. Let's face it, nobody respects someone who only focuses on the negatives. Complaining is like throwing mud. It dirties the situation, but it also stains the person doing it. People who complain constantly come across as ungrateful and powerless, as though they're passengers in their own lives, incapable of taking the wheel. And here's the real damage. It's not just their reputation that suffers, it's their mindset. Complaining rewires your brain to look for problems instead of solutions, turning small inconveniences into massive roadblocks. Think of it this way. Life is a garden. A complainer focuses on the weeds while ignoring the flowers. Over time, all they can see is what's wrong, never appreciating what's right. And you know what? That negativity spreads. It seeps into conversations, dampens moods, and creates an atmosphere that repels others. People avoid complainers because their constant negativity feels like an anchor, pulling everyone down. But why do people complain so much? Often, it's a coping mechanism. It's easier to vent than to take action. Complaining creates the illusion of control. If I can voice my frustrations, I'm doing something about them. But in reality, it's just noise. No progress, no growth, just a cycle of dissatisfaction that feeds on itself. So how can you handle someone like this? Or better yet, make sure you're not slipping into the same habit. The first step is awareness. Pay attention to how often you complain. Are you venting for the sake of releasing stress, or have you made it a lifestyle? If it's the latter, it's time to pause and reflect. Instead of focusing on the problem, shift your energy towards solutions. Ask yourself, what can I do to change this situation? For those around you who constantly complain, set boundaries. Don't let their negativity become your burden. Encourage them to focus on the positives or brainstorm ways they can improve their situation. But remember, some people are stuck in the habit, and it's not your job to fix them. Protect your peace. Stoicism teaches us that our perspective shapes our reality. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Complaining gives away that power. It reinforces the idea that life happens to you instead of through you. At the end of the day, constant complaining doesn't solve problems. It creates them. People lose respect for those who complain endlessly because it signals weakness, helplessness, and ingratitude. Strong people don't dwell on what's wrong. They focus on making it right. So the next time you're tempted to complain, ask yourself, is this helping me grow or is it holding me back? Life is too short to waste on negativity. Choose gratitude over grumbling and action over excuses. If you've watched the video this far, make sure to comment "Thank God" to let us know you're with us. Number 3, gossiping about others. We've all heard it, that hushed whisper in the corner, the sly remark about someone who isn't there to defend themselves. Gossiping might seem harmless, even entertaining in the moment. But here's the hard truth. Every time you talk about someone behind their back, you're not just damaging their reputation, you're ruining your own. Think about it. How do you feel when you hear someone gossiping? Do you trust them? Or do you quietly wonder what they say about you when you're not around? Gossip is like a double-edged sword. It cuts the person being talked about, but it slices even deeper into the person holding the blade. Over time, it paints you as untrustworthy, someone who thrives on drama rather than building meaningful connections. Why is gossip so damaging? Because it signals insecurity. People who gossip often use it as a way to feel better about themselves by putting others down. It's a cheap attempt to gain attention, but it comes at a high cost: respect. In fact, those who listen to gossip might laugh along in the moment, but deep down, they're taking mental notes. They know that if you're willing to talk badly about someone else, you'll do the same to them. Stoic philosophy has a clear stance on this. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Gossip, no matter how tempting, is a reflection of pettiness and weakness. A strong person rises above the noise, choosing integrity over cheap entertainment. Instead of tearing others down, they focus on building themselves up. But why do we gossip? It's simple. Talking about others gives us a temporary boost. It makes us feel powerful, in the know, and part of a group. But this feeling doesn't last. Gossip is like drinking salt water. It might quench your thirst momentarily, but it leaves you more parched in the long run. So how do you break free from this toxic habit? First, ask yourself, is what I'm about to say kind, necessary, and true? If it doesn't check all 3 boxes, it's better left unsaid. Second, shift your conversations. Instead of focusing on others, talk about ideas, goals, or even personal growth. The best connections aren't built on shared negativity, they're built on mutual respect and inspiration. And what about handling people who gossip around you? Set boundaries. Politely steer the conversation in a different direction, or make it clear you're not interested in participating. Over time, people will realize you're not someone who entertains or tolerates negativity. At the end of the day, gossiping doesn't elevate anyone. It drags everyone down. Your words are a reflection of your character, and nothing damages that faster than idle chatter about others. Strong people don't waste their energy on gossip. They use it to grow, learn, and lead by example. The next time you're tempted to gossip, remember, the words you choose today shape the reputation you carry tomorrow. Choose wisely. Number 4, mocking or belittling others. Have you ever been in the presence of someone who finds joy in putting others down? Maybe they laugh at someone's mistakes, point out flaws to feel superior, or use sarcastic comments disguised as humor. At first, you might think they're just joking, but soon you realize there's nothing funny about tearing someone else down. Mocking or belittling others doesn't just harm the person on the receiving end, it poisons the reputation of the person doing it. Think of it like this: a fire meant to keep others warm should never burn them. But when someone mocks or belittles others, that's exactly what they do. Instead of building bonds, they create barriers. It sends a loud message to everyone watching: I elevate myself by making others feel small. And trust me, no one respects that. Why is this behavior so damaging? For starters, it reveals insecurity. People who mock or belittle others are often masking their own fears, shortcomings, or inadequacies. It's easier to shine a spotlight on someone else's faults than to confront their own. But here's the catch. Mocking doesn't hide their insecurities. It magnifies them. Others see through the facade and recognize the cruelty for what it is: weakness masquerading as strength. Stoicism offers us wisdom here. Epictetus said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." People who mock or belittle others close themselves off from growth. They focus on the flaws of others instead of working on their own character. True strength comes not from tearing others down, but from lifting them up. If you find yourself around someone who mocks or belittles others, pay close attention to how they treat people they perceive as weaker. It's a red flag. Today, they might belittle a stranger. Tomorrow, it could be you. Respect is earned through kindness, empathy, and understanding, not through sarcasm or cruelty. So how do you avoid falling into this toxic behavior yourself? Start by practicing empathy. Before making a comment, ask yourself, how would I feel if this were directed at me? If the answer is anything less than positive, it's a sign to hold your tongue. Second, focus on building others up. Compliments, encouragement, and constructive feedback leave a far greater impact than mockery ever could. And if you encounter someone who consistently mocks or belittles others, don't engage. Silence speaks volumes. By not laughing along or encouraging their behavior, you send a clear message. Cruelty isn't entertaining, and it's not welcome in your space. Mocking or belittling might feel like a way to gain control or power, but in reality, it's a sign of weakness. It damages trust, destroys relationships, and leaves a trail of negativity that's hard to erase. Strong individuals choose compassion over cruelty and empathy over ego. At the end of the day, how you treat others is a reflection of your character. The words you use can either heal or harm, so choose them wisely. As the Stoics teach us, greatness isn't about stepping on others to rise. It's about helping others rise alongside you. If you've enjoyed the video so far, please make sure to like it. It'll take you less than 2 seconds and it'll put a big smile on my face. Number 5, interrupting or not listening. Have you ever been in a conversation where you couldn't get a word in because someone kept interrupting? Or worse, they nodded along like they were listening, only to completely miss the point you were making? Few things ruin your reputation faster than the inability to truly listen. It might not seem like a big deal at first, but over time, this habit signals to others that you value your voice more than theirs. Interrupting isn't just rude. It's a declaration. It says what I have to say is more important than what you're saying. And that's how people start to see you, as someone who prioritizes their ego over meaningful connection. The same goes for not listening. When you zone out or prepare your next reply instead of truly hearing the other person, you miss the chance to connect on a deeper level. Over time, this behavior erodes trust and respect, leaving people feeling unseen and unheard. Let's break it down. Imagine you're speaking to someone and mid-sentence, they cut you off to share their opinion. How does it feel? Frustrating, isn't it? Interruptions and inattentive listening don't just stop conversations, they stop relationships from growing. People start to avoid sharing their thoughts with you because they know they won't be valued. And without trust, your reputation takes a nosedive. But why do people interrupt or fail to listen? Often it's rooted in impatience or the desire to feel heard. We interrupt because we think our point is more pressing or insightful. We don't listen because we're too focused on what we'll say next. But here's the irony. The harder you try to dominate a conversation, the more people tune you out. Stoicism offers powerful guidance here. Epictetus wisely said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Listening isn't just a courtesy, it's a discipline. It requires presence, humility, and the willingness to step outside your own perspective. These qualities aren't just admired, they're essential for building strong, lasting connections. So how can you break the habit of interrupting or zoning out? Start by pausing. When someone speaks, give them your full attention. Don't just wait for your turn to talk. If you feel the urge to interrupt, take a deep breath and let them finish. Practice active listening by paraphrasing what they've said before responding. This shows that you value their input and ensures you truly understand their point. And if you've been called out for interrupting or not listening, own it. Apologize sincerely and make an effort to improve. Admitting your flaws and committing to change speaks volumes about your character and can even strengthen your relationships. At the end of the day, being a great listener isn't just about making others feel good, it's about earning their respect. When people know you truly hear them, they're more likely to trust, support, and admire you. So the next time you're in a conversation, remember, your words might impress people, but your ability to listen will inspire them. Choose to be someone who values connection over control. Your reputation will thank you. Number 6, not taking responsibility for your mistakes. Have you ever worked with or been around someone who could never admit when they were wrong? Every mistake somehow became someone else's fault, or they had a laundry list of excuses to explain why it wasn't really their problem. It's exhausting, isn't it? Worse, it leaves a lasting impression, and not a good one. Failing to take responsibility for your mistakes is one of the quickest ways to ruin your reputation. Let's be honest, everyone makes mistakes. It's part of being human. But here's the difference. Owning your mistakes shows strength, while avoiding them shows weakness. When you dodge accountability, you're telling the world, I care more about protecting my ego than about doing what's right. Over time, this habit not only damages your credibility, but also makes people lose trust in you. Think of it this way. Life is like a boat. When you refuse to patch up the holes you've created, the ship starts to sink. You can blame the weather, the waves, or the crew, but none of that will stop the water from flooding in. The only way to stay afloat is to grab a bucket, admit there's a problem, and start fixing it. Similarly, taking responsibility for your mistakes is how you regain control of your life and repair any damage you've caused. Why do people avoid taking responsibility? The answer is simple: fear. Owning up to a mistake feels uncomfortable. It can bruise your pride or even make you feel vulnerable. But here's the irony. Admitting fault doesn't make you look weak. It makes you look mature, honest, and trustworthy. People don't expect perfection, they expect integrity. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, and your response to a mistake is always within your control. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." Taking responsibility is the hallmark of good character. It shows you're willing to learn, grow, and prioritize what's right over what's easy. So, how do you start owning your mistakes? First, drop the excuses. If you've messed up, say it plainly. I made a mistake. Next, take action. Don't just apologize. Outline how you'll fix the situation or prevent it from happening again. Finally, accept the consequences. Mistakes can be painful, but they're also incredible teachers. Learn from them and move forward with humility. If you encounter someone who avoids accountability, take note. These are the people who will leave you to clean up their messes and shift blame when things go wrong. Protect yourself from their influence and instead surround yourself with people who value integrity and growth. At the end of the day, not taking responsibility for your mistakes doesn't protect you. It isolates you. It weakens your relationships and damages your reputation far more than the mistake itself ever could. Remember this, strong people don't fear mistakes. They embrace them as opportunities to improve. Owning up to your faults doesn't just repair your reputation, it builds it. Because in a world full of excuses, accountability is a rare and powerful thing. Number 7, breaking promises. We've all experienced it, the letdown of someone who didn't follow through on their word. A promise made, a commitment broken, and the trust that once existed, now shattered. It might seem like a small thing in the moment, but the impact of broken promises stretches far beyond that fleeting disappointment. It erodes the very foundation of trust and respect. Think about it. How do you feel when someone breaks a promise to you? Do you feel valued, or do you feel like an afterthought? When promises are broken, they don't just harm the person who's been let down, they also damage the one who failed to deliver. Every time you break a promise, you're not just letting down someone else, you're revealing something deeper about your character. For example, think of it like a garden. When you plant seeds, you promise the earth that you'll tend to them, water them, and let them grow. If you neglect them, they wither, and the garden loses its potential. You might say it's just one plant, but eventually the entire garden suffers. Similarly, breaking a promise is like neglecting your responsibilities. It might seem like a small lapse at first, but over time it causes greater harm than you realize. Breaking promises, especially when it's habitual, signals unreliability. It's easy to make excuses, but at the heart of it is a lack of integrity. When you fail to honor your word, people begin to question everything you say. They start wondering, can I trust this person? Will they really come through when it matters? In Stoic philosophy, honesty and consistency are essential virtues. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that we should live in alignment with our values. This includes keeping our promises. A promise is a reflection of our integrity, and breaking it chips away at that core. In fact, when we fail to live up to our word, we're not just damaging our relationships, we're damaging ourselves. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. So how can we stop this damaging cycle? First, think before you make a promise. Are you truly able to deliver? Will you have the time and resources to keep your word? Don't promise more than you can realistically offer, and never commit to something just to please others. Instead, make promises that reflect your values and ensure you can follow through on them. If you find yourself unable to keep a promise, own up to it immediately. Apologize, explain the situation, and offer an alternative. Honesty and transparency go a long way in maintaining trust, even when things don't go as planned. At the end of the day, your word is your bond. Keeping promises is not just about the people around you. It's about honoring yourself. When you fail to deliver, You not only damage your relationships, but you also chip away at your own integrity. The next time you're about to make a promise, pause and ask yourself, am I truly ready to keep this? The promises you make today will shape the trust and respect you earn tomorrow. Choose wisely. Number 8, being arrogant instead of confident. We all know someone who seems to walk into a room like they own it. Their presence demands attention, but not in the way they think. Arrogance might come off as confidence, but it's a thin veneer covering insecurity. And while confidence can attract admiration, arrogance pushes people away. The difference between the two might seem subtle, but it has a profound impact on how you're perceived by others and how you view yourself. Think about it. Have you ever been around someone who constantly boasts about their achievements or puts others down to lift themselves up? It doesn't feel empowering, it feels draining. Confidence, on the other hand, is quietly powerful. It doesn't need validation from others. It comes from a place of self-assurance and humility. Arrogance, however, craves approval and, in its desperation, alienates those around it. For example, imagine a tree standing tall in a forest. It doesn't need to scream for attention. Its strength is clear simply by the way it stands. But when a tree grows too tall and heavy without proper roots, it risks falling. Arrogance is like that tree. Its outward strength might seem impressive, but it's not grounded in humility. A truly confident person is rooted in self-awareness and a sense of security, knowing they don't need to belittle others to feel important. Arrogance comes from a need to prove something, to elevate oneself by diminishing others. It's a reflection of insecurity, a shield that deflects attention from one's own fears and vulnerabilities. Confident people, on the other hand, don't need to put others down to feel good about themselves. They rise above the need for validation, knowing their worth doesn't depend on the approval of others. Stoicism teaches us that true confidence doesn't come from comparison or boasting. It comes from inner strength and peace. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. When you focus on your own growth and self-respect, arrogance has no room to take root. Confidence, grounded in humility, allows you to build genuine relationships based on mutual respect rather than superficial admiration. So how do you avoid falling into the trap of arrogance? First, focus on your actions, not your words. Let your work and behavior speak for you, not empty boasts or exaggerated claims. Secondly, practice empathy. Instead of looking for ways to make yourself feel superior, look for ways to lift others up. Confidence thrives in an environment of mutual respect and encouragement. If you catch yourself slipping into arrogance, take a step back and ask, am I trying to prove something? Or am I simply being the best version of myself? True confidence is calm, it doesn't seek attention, and it certainly doesn't need to put others down to shine. At the end of the day, arrogance only builds walls between you and the world around you. Confidence, however, opens doors and connects you to others. Remember, the more secure you are in yourself, the less you need to prove. Confidence doesn't need validation from others. It's enough just to be. If any of the points resonated with you, be sure to comment, "Thank God I learned it," to share your thoughts and let us know how it connected.